You Booked It, episode 56. Hey, entertainers and performers of the world. I'm your host, Dane Reese, and welcome to You Booked It, where I chat with inspiring entertainment professionals 7 days a week. By digging into their journey, we're going to discover everything you need to do to have a successful entertainment career. You know, because training usually skips that part about how to actually make your skills work for you in the real world. Fellow entertainers, my drive here at You Booked It is to share the inspiring and incredible journeys of successful entertainment professionals. We're here to support your journey. So go to youbookeditpodcast.com and join the You Booked It email community, where we dig deep into truly actionable things you can be doing right now to book that next audition, submission, or gig. If you enjoy this free podcast, please show your support and search for You Booked It on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app, where you can subscribe so you don't miss an episode, leave a rating, and review. And now, let's do this. Okay, let's get started. I am excited to introduce my guest today, Sarah Leclerc. Are you ready for this, Sarah?
I'm ready, Dane. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here with you.
All right, let's do it. Dancing since the age of 5, Sarah has had an abundant career dedicated to the art of dancing, singing, and acting. As a young dancer, Sarah was exposed to dance with an emphasis in ballet, which led to a variety of styles that she studied throughout her career. She has been an NBA dancer for the Golden State Warriors, a dancer and aerialist for Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines, where she traveled and performed around the world for 5 years. After winning Season 3 of The Ultimate Coyote Ugly Search, which aired on CMT, Sarah continued her dance career at Royal Caribbean until transitioning as a rehearsal choreographer and director for the company. She currently resides in Las Vegas, where she's had a thriving career both on stage and off, and as a member of Actors Equity Association, her credits include dance captain and lead dancer in Vegas the Show, featured ballroom couple in Baz, Star-Crossed Love, and The Donnie and Marie Show, along with many other projects as the producer and choreographer. Sarah, that is a quick intro of who you are and what you've done, but why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself? Fill in the gaps.
Well, thanks, Dane. I am obviously, like I said previously, I'm so thrilled to be here. And thank you so much for doing this for so many of us. We have such incredible talent in our city, and I'm just so excited to be doing this. I am originally from Walnut Creek, California. So I grew up in the Bay Area in Northern California. And I moved to Southern California, to Los Angeles, when at the ripe age of 20 after my NBA career. And I was hustling and I was taking class at the Edge and Millennium, and I was a part of a couple dance companies. And as you said, I traveled the world as a dancer and aerialist for Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines, which was obviously very thrilling and an incredible experience to get to hone in on my craft, multiple times a week for different audiences and really push myself as a performer. And then I did this thing, which I've always done, which is follow my heart. And when I started teaching for Royal Caribbean, which I absolutely loved, it was thrilling to be in front of the room and create the shows from, build them from the ground up with exceptional talent. But I followed my heart, and my heart was not done with being on the stage. And that's what landed us in Vegas. And Vegas was never really on the radar for me. But when I gave it a chance, I really saw a thriving industry, with what I do. And have just had an incredible experience here in Vegas. It has been so good to me, and I'm so grateful and humbled by the opportunities that I've had here, whether it's performing in Vegas the Show or Baz or Donnie and Marie. I mean, so much opportunity in this city as far as corporates or nightclubs or choreographing and performing for the National Finals Rodeo annually at the Thomas and Mack Center. It's just been a fantastic ride. And I've also been lucky enough to be on the other side of it as well, in sales and marketing and part of production companies that are really awesome here in the city too. So I feel like I've really gotten a taste for the industry on both sides, and it's been awesome for me.
Wow, I love that. I love that you've had such a comprehensive journey of this industry. And That is one of the biggest things and the biggest reasons, I should say, why I've done this podcast, because so many of us come into this industry thinking, oh, I'm a dancer, I'm a singer, I do musical theater, but there are so many aspects of this industry that can be fulfilling in so many ways. And as we navigate our careers, different doors continue to open up.
That's exactly right. And I think it's important, as you said, not to box ourselves into one niche. And we so often do that to ourselves as performers. Well, I'm only good at this, or I only thrive at this, or this is my specialty. And the truth is, it's such a broad industry. There's so much that you can sink your teeth into. And I, have just found in my journey in this industry that, the things that I really enjoyed and loved and was passionate about, I wanted to keep pushing and learn more because I've just really enjoyed becoming so well versed in so many different facets of our industry. So I'm one of the lucky ones.
Absolutely. And you did mention something else that I want to bring up in that little intro part, that you're saying that you really got to hone your skills when you're doing ships. And
Yes.
I want to mention this because even today, ships are one of those things that some people, especially on the East Coast, I have found, tend to give it a bit of a bad rep. And the fact
Yes.
is that ships are great. You get a great wage, you get to perform, you get more reps on stage doing what you love, traveling. It checks literally all the boxes. And I think it is the fastest way to figure out if this career is correct for you.
I could not agree more. And I've had the pleasure of getting to teach or produce or direct so many young dancers in our industry as I'll use the word seasoned, as a seasoned performer. And you know what? I've been asked that question so many times, what are cruise ships like? It's something I'm thinking about. And it is something that I will always push in a very positive way because from personal experience, it is one of the best things that I could have done with my career. And I truly had no intention of doing more than one contract. I had a friend that said, let's go audition. There's an audition today in LA for Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines. I'm like, I don't want to do a cruise ship. And because I think sometimes we have a preconceived notion of things, right? I thought people were just step touching and I wanted to really dance. And I went to this audition and the person in front of the room said, okay, your triples better be on today or else you're going to get cut. And I thought, oh, like
Oh,
we're doing this. And you know what? Those years, 6 contracts and getting to produce and direct and teach, like you said, the material and what these producers and directors and cruise lines are putting on these ships these days is exceptional. And the fact that I got to hone in on my craft, so many different styles, such a variety. I was pushed. I worked with some of the best people in my life that have made such an impact on my career, some of the best directors, choreographers, and it totally paved the way for me in knowing that I wanted to continue down this path.
absolutely. I love that. Well, let's move on to our next section here. And look, Sarah, I am a sucker for a good quote. What is
Yes.
your favorite quote you'd like to share with everyone?
Well, this is a really important quote to me. It's a quote that came in because I am a sucker for quotes too. I love. But this quote came into my life probably about 4 years ago, and it changed my life. And it's a quote by Theodore Roosevelt, and it's called The Man in the Arena. And if you will allow me, I'd love to read it to you because I think it can be life changing for a lot of people.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
And it goes like this. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who paints out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows the end, the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly. That is the quote that changed
That
my life.
is amazing. I love that quote. It is so good. Can you expand a little bit on how you've applied that to your life and your career?
I'd love to. I think, it's one of those things I wish I had had earlier, but that's okay. It came into my life when it was meant to. And I think as performers, we are it comes with the territory. I think we all know that. But we tend to be very hard on ourselves, and we tend to listen more to what the critic has to say, especially this day and age with, social media at our fingertips. It's so much easier to listen to the negative than actually expand on the positive. And for me, there's been so many instances in my life as a not just a performer, but maybe giving a presentation or in sales or in PR and marketing or just in front of a room, being vulnerable enough to put my choreography on people. I remind myself of this quote because it's not the critic who counts, because 9 times out of 10 the critic isn't even the one who's in the arena trying, and what matters is that you're actually there, that you're brave enough and you have the courage enough and the vulnerability enough to put yourself in a position to maybe face rejection and maybe face feeling quote unquote failure, but it's that you did it anyways, which I think builds the courage to continue feeling motivated to do what we do.
Absolutely. And let's not forget that critic doesn't have a job unless there's people like us putting ourselves out there and on the line,
Amen. That's
right?
exactly right. That's exactly right. So I think it's just a really important reminder. I've actually in my inner monologue in my head when I'm standing or I'm, in front of a room or I'm feeling nervous or a little bit, anxiety ridden, this quote I've like dedicated to my life and just thought, no, think about that. Think about that quote. Think about what it means and go for it, you know? So,
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's also why I think you find across the board artists, doesn't matter if we're performing artists or graphic artists or whatever, that we tend to be living life in a more fulfilled way on the whole. We tend to be happier, more energetic people, younger looking when we get a little bit more seasoned, as you like to say,
yes.
because we are we are living our lives. We're putting ourselves out there, and that fulfills us. There's that passion and that energy, and we're always
Yes.
moving to the next adventure, not just sitting at a desk doing the same thing every single day, which is soul killing.
Yes. Yes, and when we are not meant to do that, you are not meant to do it.
Yep, and we know it for sure.
That's right.
All right, well, let's move on to this section. And of course, Sarah, you are an entertainer. I am an entertainer. And I think that you'd agree that this industry can be one of the most subjective, brutally honest, personally
Yes.
emotional industries either of us have probably ever experienced. And
Yep.
you know as well as I that in order to create and to have a successful career in this industry like you're having now takes a lot of dedication and hard work. And while, of course, there is an outrageous amount of excitement being an entertainer, being on stage, there are also our fair share of obstacles, challenges, and failures we are going to experience and we're going to have to move forward through. So tell us, what is one key challenge, obstacle, or failure you've experienced in your career, and how did you come out the other side better because of it?
I love that you asked this question. I love it because excuse me, it brings the realness to what we do. There is, so often it's covered by the glitz and glamour, but man, there is a real side to this industry. And the thing, when I really thought about it, reflected on it, the thing that I came down to for me that has been hard is comparison.
Hmm.
As a performer, that is something that I think has hindered many of us. Comparison, not feeling good enough. And again, I think that's something, we chose this career, right? We chose to put ourselves in front of a panel of people
Yeah.
and be judged and to be told whether we're good enough or not in that moment. And I think what that has done in certain moments in my life is as performers, we tend to take what we do and we put it into our real world, right? Our quote unquote real world. And comparison is a killer. I will just say that. But each experience of the rejection or the letdown or the disappointment has certainly led me to creating a thicker skin. It doesn't mean that we can't feel what we need to feel and not be sensitive. But I think for me, as again, as a seasoned performer, it really has what it's done for me is that I made the conscious effort to recognize that I was having these feelings of comparison and what it was doing to me, and it was killing me. So, when we can go into a space and remember that our superpower is literally just being you, being who you are, the
Yeah.
value that you can bring to the space, and that, of course, is there a typecast? Do you have to be a certain height? Do you have yes, of course. But all of that aside, we have to be so true to who we are because comparison is a killer. And I also think for me in this industry, it's trusting the timing of each letdown. Because I don't know about you, Dane, but every letdown I've had in this industry, because we've all faced rejection and we can't see, of course, we can't see what's ahead of us, but that rejection has led to like some other massive opportunity or something else that I couldn't see that was coming for me that was meant for me. So it helped me understand why whatever didn't happen happened in that moment. And so for me it's it's not comparing myself to others and their journey and their successes. It's relishing and being humbled by mine and what I've achieved and also really trusting the timing for that door to open. And maybe that's what we're doing now. We're on this timeout because we're waiting for that giant door to open.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And I can absolutely attribute my entire career to timing and things not
Yes.
working out. It's really amazing when you have the opportunity to, or when you take the time to consciously reflect on
Sure.
your life and your career.
That's right.
Great. Well, let's move on to a time that I like to call your spotlight moment. That
I love it.
one moment in time you realized, yes, I am going to be an entertainer for a living, or maybe it was, yes, this is what I need to be doing as an entertainer. Tell us about
Ah,
that.
yes. Okay. So again, I was one of the lucky ones, and I feel so happy about this because I knew at 5 years old that this is what I was gonna do with my life. I knew it. It was in my heart, it was in my blood. My older sister had started dancing before I did, and I would go with my mom to pick her up from the studio, and I just would look in the observation window and just I had to do it. And so for me, again, one of the lucky ones, I knew at a young age, this is me. This is part of who I am. But what really pushed me in that direction was when I was 7 years old, and it was my very first play. So up until that point, I'd been training in ballet at a very prestigious school for 2 years. It was very structured and disciplined. And so this was my first play in first grade called The Little White Rabbit Who Wanted Red Wings. And I got cast as Mrs. Butterfly, which let me tell you, in first grade, that was like
That
a
was
thing.
it.
And I'll never forget it because it was the first time that it was this little tiny featured role. I had my own song and my own lines, and I practiced every day at home. And it was the first time that I'd been in front of an audience. And I was so fulfilled and so happy. And my grandpa, who was just an incredible warrior of strength in my life, who was someone that was just very special to me. He was at my play, and he came over to me at the very end. He handed me my flowers and he put his hand on my shoulder and he looked at me and he said, "Sarah, you were fantastic. Follow your heart because one day your name will be in lights." And I have never let go of that, which is why at the end of every time I performed in Vegas, the show, I always pointed up to the sky, and that's for my grandpa because he's someone who really pushed me and made me feel special in that moment shining on stage, and I knew I had to do it.
I love that story. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And let's piggyback on that and talk about your number one booked it moment. Walk us through that day, the auditions and callbacks, if they happen to be a part of it. What was going on
Yes.
in your life, and what about that moment makes it your favorite booked it moment?
Well, I also love that you asked this question because 'cause we're so lucky to have so many of those booked it moments, but this one for me is my biggest, and there's a reason for that. I was 19 years old, just out of high school, living in Northern California, grew up in the Bay Area, and one of my best friends was a Golden State Warrior girl. And I thought, I'm going to go to this audition. I know I'm kind of young and so many people show up but I'm just going to go, right? The man in the arena. Wish I had that back then, but I did. I went and there were so many people who showed up. And all of a sudden I was being kept and I was being kept and my number kept being called. And I was so excited. I'd made the call back and the callback experience was really, really hard, and it consisted of interviews and dressing up professionally, and so they could learn how you carry yourself and hold yourself in front of people when you go out into the community and talk about the team. And then the final callback, I think there were only gosh, I think it was a squad of, like, 18 to 20 girls, and I think there were only 5 spots that season. And I remember the coach saying, "If you made the team, call this number. It's a voice recording, and if you hear your number, then, you made the team." And I remember I was home alone at the moment, and I called in and I heard they called number 11, which was my number when I auditioned for the Golden State Warrior Girls. And Dane, I literally like fell to my knees
Uh,
and cried. And I was so excited. And here's why. This is what I knew I wanted to do with my life. Not necessarily, being an NBA dancer for life. What I mean by that is I knew that I wanted to perform. And this was my very first professional gig. And I thought, oh my gosh, I've trained my whole life since I was 5 years old. I've taught in studios. I was the coach of the dance and cheer team at my high school. And then I auditioned for this NBA team and I booked it. And there was no greater feeling because in that moment for me, I knew that if I really wanted to do this, I could do it. And so that's why that was an important one for me. It was also because I'm from Walnut Creek, which is a smaller town in the East Bay, and it was like a thing, like, "Oh my gosh, Sarah's a warrior girl." So I felt really special, and we went out in the community and did promotions, and then just the energy of arena performing and the half times, the timeouts was so awesome, and they brought in so many top ranked choreographers from LA to come teach us these halftime numbers, and I just thought it was such a fantastic experience. I was the youngest on the team, and it was so special for me to book that first professional job.
Oh, I love that story. That's so good. And all that validation of all that training, all those years, just right
Yeah.
there in one
That's
moment.
what it was for me. Yeah, it absolutely was, but I had such similar feelings, I don't wanna discount it, excuse me, booking a show like Vegas the Show or Baz or Donnie Marie because I respect those shows so much here in this city. So those were also really, just wonderful moments in my life and very
Absolutely.
lucky. So
Absolutely. And I don't think you probably know this about me, but I was a mascot for the University of Montana where I won the Capital One National Mascot of the Year award. And
you're kidding.
no, that happened in my life. That was a
Awesome.
part. And you're right, that arena performing is amazing. It
Yeah.
wouldn't have been, I don't think on that scale. With the football, we were around 20,000 people to
It's
perform in front of.
massive.
It's
Yeah.
what an incredible feeling to have everyone in an arena
Yes.
following you, looking at you. You're performing for them. It is something that is unexplainable unless you have the fortune of doing it. It's so amazing.
It is, and that's why, for the last 5 years, I've been so fortunate, thanks to my good friend Janelle, to have been a part of the National Finals Rodeo here in Las Vegas and
Yeah.
get to perform for 18,000 people, annually for God rest his soul, Charlie Daniels, and choreograph for him, but the energy of arena performing is just awesome, and it's obviously very different than stage performing, but how lucky are we that we've gotten to experience both,
Absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
really cool.
Well, let's take a moment to talk about the present. What projects are you working on now? What are you looking forward to? And of course, it's a weird time. We are amidst this global pandemic. How do you see the entertainment industry moving forward in the next couple of years?
Sure. I am gonna be so candidly honest about my biggest project right now, and I hope that this
Yeah,
can
go on.
inspire some people. My my biggest project right now is me. And I say that because I have spent so many years I love working. I love the hustle. I love the grind. Anyone who knows me knows that. And I enjoy it and I'm motivated by it. But we have to be careful because sometimes we burn the candle at both ends and we can lose ourselves in the midst of trying to either A, people please all the time and just be busy and work. That's not to discount the fact that I've been very lucky and in being quote unquote busy in my life. But my biggest project right now in this downtime is really using it for what it's worth. It's been presented to us for some reason. There's a lot that's happened in my life, and I am taking the time to really work on me. And I think that's when we achieve our greatest successes when we, with, the quiet time, the moments where we allow ourselves to sit back, take a step back, work on ourselves so we can work at our best selves, and that always evokes creativity for me. So I'm just excited because I am really excited about writing. I love show production and I want to, right now I'm just putting pen to paper to try to get some ideas out there when it comes to show production because I love that side of it. I am on the back end. I'm excited because I'm studying real estate right now, which is something I've always been interested in. And I know a lot of people partake in that, but it's something that is, important and thriving. And sometimes it's not, but that's okay.
Yep.
I enjoy being productive in that way and learning a new skill. That's always important to me. The way that I, the way that I think that I can be my best self is when I'm of service. I think when we are of service to other people, much like what you're doing for so many with this podcast, which is so fantastic, is when we can give to others. It is such an incredible feeling what it does for you and what it does for them. And so that's why this quarantine corner project has been really special because I've just so enjoyed getting to know people who I really, really admire and are staples in this city and in this industry and knowing them. And I find myself talking a lot more about who they are as people, which is really fun for me. I like learning them as people and also learning their credits is just fantastic. And I know you know that because of this special project that you're doing. So writing and being of service and working on me is been a really big part of this quarantine for me. So, as far as Vegas entertainment, man, we live in such a special city and I don't we just can't forget that. And I obviously, like most of you, hope it moves in a forward direction. People need an outlet. People need the theater, they need entertainment. Of course, we have it on our screens, but that is one dimensional and only so fulfilling. I think Vegas has an incredible opportunity right now to press the reset button. I think we have an incredible opportunity to bring back the spectacle of big production shows. In my mind, maybe that evokes more dinner theater concepts because restaurants will most likely open first. I think that we could use a bit more of that here in Vegas, but I also just think that with so many empty showrooms, there's got to be a way for casinos, the relationships between casinos and producers and directors to be a little bit more collaborative, maybe less four-walling, and just really get Vegas back on track to where it used to be because it's known for great entertainment, right? So I think we have a real opportunity here to get some of these incredibly creative, talented people that we have right here in this city in these showrooms creating and producing. So I know we all are wondering when that will happen, but I have great faith that we can press reset and really get Vegas back to its roots.
I love that. I love everything you talked about just now about taking the time for you, working on you. And I think that's been a very common theme with many of us throughout this time. At first, we didn't know what to do with ourselves because we were
Oh my
so
gosh.
used to being so busy all the time and doing gig
Yeah.
and gig and gig and gig. But now we've been able to sink into it and get to those reflective times and to, like you said, work on you. And
Yep.
also love your insight on how the city will move forward, how this industry will move forward. Thank you for that. And it is now time to move on to one of my favorite sections of the interview. I call it the Grease Lightning Round.
I love it.
I
Grease
am going
lightning.
I'm going to ask you a handful of questions. I want you to answer them as quickly and concisely as possible, one after another. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All
Let's
right,
do it.
first question. What was the one thing holding you back from committing to a career as an entertainer?
My bad knee. Just kidding. Absolutely nothing. Nothing held me back. I knew I wanted it.
Brilliant. Second question. What is the best piece of advice you have ever received?
Might sound cliche, but for me, the advice was always follow your heart.
Love it. And cliches exist for a reason, right?
Yes.
Third question. What is something that is working for you right now? Or if you like to go pre COVID, what was working for you before our industry went on pause?
Something that's working for me right now is time. Time is on our side to reflect, connect, and decide. So I'm using it wisely.
Brilliant. Fourth question. What is the best resource, whether that is a book, a movie, a YouTube video, a podcast, maybe a piece of technology that you found is helping your career right now?
What's helping me right now, as I said, is working on me and to get to my best self to achieve my highest creativity level are these things, which have just been just incredible staples in my life. First off, Brene Brown podcasts. That's where I first learned about the Theodore Roosevelt quote. It was through Brene Brown. Super Soul Sunday podcast. Say that 3 times fast. And also a fellow performer here in Las Vegas, Megan Wilson. She started a program called Activate Your Anthem, and she's a mindset coach for performers. And she has just been an immense help to so many of us going through this rough time. So this things that can nourish your soul are helping me right now.
Brilliant. And the fifth question. If you had to start your career from scratch, but you still had all the knowledge and experience you've collected from your career in this industry, what would you do or not do? Would you do anything differently or would you keep it the same?
I would definitely have pushed myself more as a singer so that I have more versatility as a vocalist. I would know that saying no is okay.
Absolutely.
um, Knowing your worth is a really important one, and trusting your intuition, trusting the timing. Otherwise, since I've really listened and always followed my heart, there's not much on this journey and path that I would change because it's led me to where I'm at, which I'm very grateful for.
Fantastic. And I like that you brought up that, well, we already talked about following your heart and things like this, but also you said knowing your worth is huge because at the end of the day, we are professionals and our skills come at a cost. Yes, there is a
That's right.
time to do things for free, whether it's for a charity, whether it's for a project you really believe in, whether you think it can actually properly give you some kind of benefit or leverage in the future, that is fine. But that really
Right.
needs to be the exception and not the rule in this industry because you are a professional. And also, when you said it's okay to say no, absolutely. But that also means you have to say yes the vast majority of the time because that's where the
That's
opportunities
exactly
come.
right. That's right. And you know what? It's just as much a business on our end as it is on the other side. And that's something that we always have to remember. So I love that you touched on that.
Wonderful. It is show business.
It is.
And the last question. What is the golden nugget knowledge drop you've learned from your successful career in this industry that you'd like to share with everyone?
The biggest thing for me, and this is just how I feel in my heart, is that people matter. Relationships matter, work ethic matters, reputation matters. And that all comes from just being a good person, training, loving what you do, being passionate, because we all know that you can be the most talented person in the world. But if you are unpleasant, I'll say the word unpleasant, to work alongside, then it's not worth it. So, and it comes from the top too, even with producers and directors, just taking care of your people. It's so much more of of a successful operation when you can remember that people matter. And that's an important one for me. And I've always strived to do that in any leadership role I've had. I've always wanted people to feel like they are special and they matter and they're being heard.
I love that. Thank you. And to wrap up this interview, it is time to give yourself a plug. Where can we find you? How do our listeners connect with you? Is there anything you want to promote?
You can find me on Facebook, Sarah LeClaire, YouTube, Sarah LeClaire, my Instagram at Sarah LeClaire, and my hashtag is hashtag Quarantine Corner for some cool Instagram TV videos on Vegas professionals here who have had some awesome awesome careers and are just amazing people. So I would definitely want to just put a plug in here and promote my friend Megan again for Activate Your Anthem. You can find her on Instagram, Life Coach Megan, and Activate Your Anthem. She's just a tremendous help when it comes to performers and getting on the other side of this successfully, because it does take a mental toll.
Absolutely. Fantastic. So everyone listening, all the things she just mentioned, I've put links to in the description of this episode. Sarah, thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview today. It has been an absolute pleasure speaking with you.
Likewise, Dane. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us today. My one call to action for you is to go to youbookeditpodcast.com and join our free email community, where we dig deep into a continually growing resource of truly actionable things you can be doing right now to help advance your entertainment career. Don't miss an episode. We have a new guest 7 days a week. Search for You Booked It on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app and subscribe today. All the best to you. We'll see you tomorrow.